If you've ever wondered what it takes to get into fields like data, cloud, DevOps, and AI, well, today is your lucky day because Kiara is going to help you figure out what it is that you need to be doing to build a career in this high going, growing, and high paying fields. She's the founder of the Data Blog, where she helps hundreds of people land new roles and grow their careers. I actually came across her on Twitter where she's always dropping gems upon gems upon gems. And today, I'm hoping that, you can be inspired by her as much as I've been, following her this couple of months, maybe a little over a year. But welcome to the stream, Kara.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me on.
Absolutely. And also, I wanted to also let the people know, in case they didn't know, that sometimes, when she's not serving um, AI data germs on stages, is also serving Luke's at tech conferences. So if you ever like a tech conference, you definitely got to watch out for her.
For sure. I'm auditioning for Best Dressed whenever I get on that stage.
Sure. So, what first got you interested in tech?
Honestly, the money and me not having to go to get a master's degree. I really had no idea what tech actually was until I actually showed up to my first class. So, yeah.
So that's such a real answer, and I love it. And maybe we one of the it completely threw me off with my follow up there because I really love that response, right? Of money being a motivating factor for you, and it should be, right? Because I think that's something that people are not often willing to acknowledge, if that makes sense. But if
Hmm.
you think about it, like we build careers, of course, for many reasons, fulfillment, all of those things, but nobody would do it for any of all those reasons if it was for free, would they?
Right. Exactly. Our work
So,
is valuable.
so essentially, given that working back from that goal, what were the specific steps that you took to help you get to the bag?
Oh yeah, sure. And this was, I guess this is over years. Like I can't say specific steps, and I immediately executed them in a while. Again, my journey into this was in high school. I knew I wanted to go to college. It was clearly how people were making money, especially based off of me seeing my best friend and how her dad was doing with petroleum engineering. I didn't even know what that was. All I did was go on Google, look at like best paying like college majors, and computer science was pretty much up there. And silly me at the time, I had no exposure to like coding all that much, or quite, I didn't quite understand what that was. So for some reason, I thought it was like the support that you see at like Apple, where they're showing you how to like click and open stuff and how to navigate using your the software in the Apple ecosystem.
Mm.
So imagine my surprise when I showed up on UT Austin's campus and they're talking about some for loops. So definitely threw me for a loop. But oh yeah, no pun intended. But yeah, it was just that. I first chose it because of the money. Then afterwards, I'm like, all right, I'm going to be doing this stuff for a while. I'm realizing there's a bunch of different subfields in tech. So I used internship opportunities to basically figure out exactly what it was I wanted to do. So I had three different internships in college. At least I think it was three, yes. And each of them were completely different. First one was doing full stack web development and Android app development with a local defense contracting company here in Austin. The second one was doing web development for a local furniture store here in Austin as well too. And then the last one was when I went to Visa, and that's when I stumbled into the world of data, but I did not know it was data at the time because at least at UT, it wasn't really broadcast what data analytics was and that big boom with like Hadoop going on. So
Mhm.
and also, I had a very vague title as a learning technologist. Basically, what I did was like learning analytics in the HR department, understanding how employees were engaging with all of the free learning resources like Udemy and Coursera and all of that, and then also compliance. How many people are taking the sexual harassment and the GDPR and all those different compliance videos that we're required to watch every single year. So I was only one of two technical employees in that domain. And so that meant I actually had to help building out the data pipelines and stuff like that. So I was a data engineer in that respect. Once those
Mhm.
pipelines were pretty much built out for all the applications we were funneling data from, I became a data analyst, but I did not know
Mhm.
that at the time. And I was like, yo, why am I building all these dashboards? I'm not coding. I literally went to school to code. I didn't like get, these student loans so I can build dashboards. What are we doing? So that's when I left and went to IBM to do cloud engineering, which turned into cloud
Mm,
DevOps, which turned into, I also did a technical writing stint too.
mm,
Same team. I just like to be the one to be in the weeds whenever somebody needed something. I wanted to be the jack of all trades, and also just to understand again what I really wanted and liked.
mm,
And then, yeah, in the meantime, I kept getting hit up for consulting contracts over data engineering and data architecture with Charles Schwab, Chewy, and Axiom, still in the domain of HR analytics, because apparently a lot of people weren't in those domains. And so I was the
mm,
person for that, which really surprised me. And that's when I fell back. That's actually when I was like, oh, data is my passion. Like, I'm really good at this now that I understand that it is data. And that's when the data block, boomed. That's when I started talking more about it on Twitter. So honestly, it started with me just making some money. And then afterwards, I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I might as well have fun with it. And that
mm.
exploration helped to lead me to data. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm like not the type of person that stays up all night every weekend coding and doing all that stuff, but I love it enough to where I want to be really good at it.
Mm.
Not only on stage when I'm talking to other people or teaching, but also, at work. I don't want it to ever be a situation where somebody could say I'm not good at what I do. I take that
Mm.
very seriously.
There we go. Because you're gonna take that personally.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sure.
Like that. It's too much. Yeah.
I always say that like my biggest motivation to get good at anything is so that I don't get called out. Because if they call me out, I'll call them out too. Be like, no, I
Exactly.
want to put my money where my mouth is.
Right, right. Like I want to always be like, yes, that's that person. That's the go-to person for something. They might not be the expert in everything because I'm multidisciplinary. It's hard to be an expert in everything, but I know the fundamentals of a lot of things to draw connections to them all. But I can also go into one discipline and still do really good there because I have the systems thinking and the process of narrowing down problems and how to solve them in place to where people will understand I'm very reliable and I'm very resilient.
That is such a good one. And still on that topic, because you touched two things that I almost want to double click into. One of them is, of course, like in fact, it's multiple of them. So there's doing your own research, which is like you went on Google and said what are the skills, and no, what are the highest paying, right? Because you
Mhm.
knew what your goal was, right? And then you went and found what it was. Second of all was um, learning the hard skills to be able to do something, but being flexible enough that where the opportunity came, you didn't really care where it came from and just took it. And that almost took you on its own journey that then led you to this moment. And then, of course, leaning into those experiences to now, especially within the niche, right, to get really good at that and find the reaches and the niches. So, talk to me about those three different themes and how it came together for you.
Oh yeah. Wait, what's the three themes again? Walk me through
So the first one, or at least the key one for me, was
it.
like doing your own research. And
Yeah.
I say that back with a view towards like, a lot of people will reach out and say, oh, what should I be doing,
Yeah.
doing this? What should I be doing that? And the first thing I could be telling anyone to be doing is doing your own research, right? Again,
Yeah.
you're not find the answer to everything is what I always think, which you probably didn't, but at least you found enough to get going. So question is more like,
Mhm.
how important is it for you to do your own research?
Oh, extremely important. I talk about this all the time. People even get upset with me on Twitter because I'm telling people, like, don't ask me for links. If I tell you something, there's keywords in there that you can search it on Google. And people
Mm,
will think I'm being mean, like, oh, you could just give the link. Mind you, the link is in the thread like multiple times. They just didn't search, whatever. But it's extremely important because not only does it reflect your character, you're a go-getter, you figure things out for yourself, because
mm,
it's deeper than just work. It's deeper than just being in tech. It's more so about just who you are overall as a person. How you do one thing is very much how you do all things. I am a believer in
mm,
that. And also, people will tell you stuff all the time. And just because you see them as credible doesn't mean that's what's right for you or that it's even correct. It's always good to fact check things yourself. It's also very
mm,
good to look things up yourself because I'm not you. I won't know if something clicks or makes sense for you like it does for me.
mm,
Only you know that you're the only one with tacit knowledge about your life experience and the things behind that. So you have to connect those dots for yourself. Also, when it comes to this tech stuff, that's your own livelihood. You shouldn't be placing that in other people's hands to figure that out for you. You should be
mm,
taking ownership of that yourself. And that's one of the biggest things that I had to learn in my career. Your manager is not going to be the one to help you set to manage your career. Your parents are not, any of your friends, they're not responsible for that. It's up to you. Sure, your manager definitely, if you have a good one, that will help to lead you and help to, set up some stepping stones for you. But in reality, at the end of the day, they're focused on their own goals, which are, of course, making sure they look good for their boss. So there's only so much they can do. And you wouldn't want it to be left up to that decision anyways. You always have to be a step ahead and forward thinking about what you want and figuring out what aligns with that. If you do more research, you'd be surprised at what you could stumble upon that no one else might have thought of or said to you. And that gives you, an upper hand in that. It helps you. It goes back to critical thinking, right? Always questioning what you're seeing, thinking deeper behind the things that you see. Always asking yourself, why? How do I feel about this? Does this seem to be true? Those help to keep your brain sharp. And that's very important in all aspects of your career in tech because the field is constantly growing. There's always something new to learn. You can still be an expert in an area, but there's always something new going on. There's always researchers putting out new papers and stuff like that. So that's why I said it's much bigger than, oh, what should I do in tech? Like that question it's just the small seed of becoming great because there's bigger things that you're going to have to do research on later on. And of course, you won't know that until you get there.
Wow. That's major, right? And I think the piece that I like the most about what you just said is something that just came to me as you were saying it, right? Is, I'm in PM solution engineering and I love it. You're in the space the spaces that you're in and you love it. There's multiple other people who are doing other things different from what we're doing and they love it and they're thriving. So there's no one right answer to this is what you should be doing. And letting other people decide that for you is almost like step one, setting yourself up for failure. Because in the moments where those things don't work, how do you own it? How do you know, like, I've not just, set you up for what was perfect for me, but not great for you? I had a guest once on the podcast who I think started a Shopify store or something like that. And because she had a passion for fashion, and then she went into this whole tangent coding, and that's how she became an engineer. So she realized she loved engineering more than she loved fashion. That is the beauty of going down rabbit holes and picking what is right for you. Because in the moments where you feel like breaking, in the moments where it doesn't make sense, that's how you make sense of it. It's kind of like that age-old advice where people say, follow your passion. It's not always true, right? Because if you go in a place where there's no opportunity, your passion is going to lead you astray. But at least it's true in this case because there's a lot of opportunity here. So if you're really committed to that vision, it can work. It can work out, and that's what I really like about that response. So tying it back to that experience and doing that first thing, because I know like the first opportunity is artist, right? How were you able? Like, what were the things that led up to that, and how did you deal with the challenges to get into landing that opportunity?
So I'm gonna say my first opportunity was my first internship at that defense contracting company, and it was pretty huge for me because, as I said, I went to UT Austin. I had peers who, in order to get their first iPhone, they had to make an app and put it on the App Store. That was the requirement from their parents, and they did it. They had parents that were directors of Google and Facebook and all that. They already had these connections and already had a lot of understanding. So by the time sophomore, when is this? When did I take my first internship? This was right before going into junior year. So that summer before junior year, these people were already going to the Googles and Facebooks and, the Netflix internships and stuff like that. I had nothing. I worked at an insurance center doing data entry. But I was very quick to continue to look out for, non-popular or the smaller companies for what was there. I also knew that I could just do something. I just had to have somebody take a chance on me, even though I was still, everybody's a newbie at that time. But again, I just did not have a leg up. I was below level 0 when it came to exposure to this stuff compared to my peers. And I remember sitting in that interview for the defense contracting company, and they were asking me questions, and some of them were really hard because I'm just like, I don't really know data structures like that. It's really difficult. Like, what's going on? I'm giving my best answers that I can, but what really like sold it for them was my gift of gab, and also my, I call it Riz, but it's charisma, and then also just my attention to like detail and asking questions. I'm a very curious person. I'll ask a lot of questions, and I think that's also what gets me very far because with research and stuff. But I remember I was just asking them questions about like what they do, what I'd be working on, like what's the hardest things that they think I'd be working on, just a ton of questions about the role itself, to the point where it actually became more of a conversation versus an interview. We're in there laughing and giggling and talking about stuff. We even talked about like what our hobbies are and stuff like that. And it got to the point where we're having such a good time, we actually went over the interview time, and it just didn't feel like an interview. I remember vividly looking at the end of the, like wrapping up, and the interviewers looked at each other and they just smiled. And I was like, I don't know what this means, but it looks good. I ended up getting the job. Like, so, just really, it starts with just having faith in yourself that you can do something. It doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect or have everything figured out, but just the faith in yourself, like, yeah, I am capable. I just have to have, my foot in the door or somebody to help me in. And you just have to be open to what that might look like, and also not beat yourself up for not being perfect. I used to be a perfectionist. So I was like really upset with myself. I wasn't able to answer them questions, but like, it's really hard. Like those coding interviews and all that's really hard. I was just trying to figure everything out. But yeah, that's really my steps. Just being curious. Being curious can really set you apart from the candidates that do know everything, know how to code, know the leak code, all that top down. So not to say you shouldn't know those things, but when everybody else is on equal playing fields, having that extra riz and curiosity will definitely help to set you apart.
It's interesting how Riz and curiosity almost has like this almost not rhyme, but like loop of words, right? And they go together. So yeah, who knew that Riz also had a place to play in tech careers? But it does work. I'll tell you guys that.
Yes, absolutely.
So some PSA, we hope you're enjoying the conversation with Kierra. If you have any questions, leave it in the chat. And shout out to Kurt because he's already left us one. So we're going to take that. Question of 2025. Should I even bother to learn to code?
Okay. So I guess I can take that one away. I actually just had a talk about this yesterday on another live about should you learn how to code in 2025. If you want to go the software engineering route, yes, absolutely, you should learn to code, and here's why. So my first one that I always talk to people about is when you're hearing the marketing of, 90% of code is being written by like Cursor and Windsurf already, or there's no point in learning how to code, or, any of these other things like software engineering is dead. Who was saying these things, and what are they tied to that makes it important for them to say these types of things? More than likely, these are the companies that actually, or the people that own Windsurf or these coding tools. So of course they want to market this to discourage people from coding, because it will make the companies more reliant on buying these tools and systems and licenses and software. Also, what are the backgrounds of these people? Are their children going to school? Because more than likely they'll talk about how their children are going to school and they'll learn how to code. 2, we have seen Windsurf and all that is somewhat decent for making those startup apps, like the basic bare bone apps, but they're not good for enterprise structures. Why? Because there's a lot of tacit knowledge across business teams, and there's business logic across all those teams that have to be coded into the app. An AI agent cannot go and ask like the sales department about specific questions and then add it into the app and stuff like that. So that means that there's going to have to be human knowledge there. There's also remembering, this is why we designed this, because this so and so happened, or it meets an SLA or something like that. The AI agents aren't able to handle that. They also aren't able to handle when you're in an enterprise code base. And actually, there's multiple code bases going on. There's like hundreds of teams, so there's hundreds of code bases, and they connect to each other. Windsurf and all of them don't have the capacity or like the context limit to even handle pulling from different code bases and even understanding why they need to pull from different code bases to connect each other. So that's another thing as well. 3, a lot of stuff breaks. So, and then also they're not good at system design. There's a difference between coding and software engineering. So software engineering requires a lot of system design and best practices. It also requires understanding business context and logic and what makes sense, and forward thinking. You can tell the coding tool how to structure something, but it doesn't quite understand that deeply. And then we'll see you tell it to do something, and then it'll completely write something that's false, or either like concepts of what you said. It's not really what's
Mm,
going on there. So and then so when those things happen after companies realize that, these coding tools are not that great, they're going to need somebody to go in and clean that up. And really smart companies are not going to be allowing windsurf and all that to write 90% of the code, and then while they just fired everybody. It makes no sense. There's going to have to be humans there to make sure everything is fine, and then also a code alongside these AI agents that are doing all this. So long story less long, yes, you absolutely should learn the code if you want to, but the best practice is to make sure you're understanding system design and best practices on coding to help you strengthen yourself in the market. Should you also use windsurf and all these other tools? Yes, of course, it'll help you competitive, and if you know help you be competitive, and if you want to 10 times your productivity, you can use those, and you'll be quicker at catching any mistakes that AI has, so it'll speed up your workflow. It shouldn't
mm.
be a either or, it's an and. It's an augmentation tool. I just really hate the marketing around it. It's saying it's like a human replacement, because it's just simply not true.
Mm, wow. You touched every single argument and point that I think in this regard. So amazing. The only other thing that I could add, if I could add anything, is
Yeah.
the biggest pointer for me, and yes, your first point is the most important. Be careful of the propaganda you're falling for. People say that all the time, like this is propaganda I'm not falling for, but unfortunately, people are falling for this one. Because again, who's selling it and why are they selling it hard? Sometimes it's somebody selling a tool, they're sending jobs, they're offshoring jobs, and they don't kind of like want you to look there. It could be a multitude of things. But the other one also is like, I looked at things like writing.
Mhm.
The articles that are being written at Washington Post or CNN or whatever, it's not written by AI, it's written by people.
Mhm.
Even now, well, those tools exist, right? So that should tell you something. At the pinnacle, at the best places where these things really matter, they should have fired all the writers and just let AI do it. They're not going to let them do it, right? So, and that's the easiest use case for AI, like
Mhm.
writing. Now imagine something like enterprise code. And this is the thing that I actually have a lot more appreciation for, is seeing even how companies made build versus buy decisions.
Mhm.
Companies many times wouldn't even build their own software, especially if it's not a core application or it's a core specialty, because they don't want to hire 10 engineers, 3 product managers, designers, and deal with all of the stress if somebody has already built out like that shell
Mhm.
of, whether it's like a scheduling tool or something that they can then layer their own interface and technology on and then go sell in the market, because one, it gives them speed, reliability, etc. So what do you think is going to make them just, buy windsurf and do all of that and then start building the same thing? Because supporting a system is way beyond just writing lines of code. That's the easiest part, right? So it's all of those things that you said, and for that reason, it's also why, like, just adding to that point, is like it'll always be important. Will there be less jobs? Of course, there'll most likely be less jobs, because we now know how to do it faster, better, cheaper. But that makes it more valuable. And I think even the flip side of it for people who are more entrepreneurial in nature is that even if everything was true, even if everything they said was true, do you think it's the average Joe on the street who's going to take advantage of AI for code, or you think it's already a software engineer? So that's another way to think about it, right?
That's actually a really good point, because I forget that we live in a bubble. Like, a lot of people don't have any idea that windsurf or any of this stuff even exists. If
Yep.
anything, especially because when you look at the traditional schools and even community college, they're a lot of them are probably aren't pushing all this AI stuff unless they're like, top 5, top 10, or top 25 is really what they do. A lot of schools aren't implementing that stuff into their curriculum until it's already been like adopted by everyone. So
Mm.
that's a really good point you make.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like at the very baseline is anybody looking to get into tech, falling in love with technology, right? And I think that's one of the things that I like the most about your story, is that you're just happy to learn about it and figuring out ways that you use it. So how did you, it's interesting that, most people will never say that they're doing it for money, but you said that. But in that, your love for technology comes out. So how did you find that?
Y- just by being curious, because yeah, I mean,
Mm,
who doesn't want to make sure that they're stable and paid very well for what they want to do?
mm,
But again, it came from the part of me being like, well, I'm already here and I'm going to get paid, so I might as well find some type of joy in it. It doesn't even, for me at the time, it wasn't even passion. It was just like,
Mm.
I want to make sure that I wake up and I'm okay with doing this and just don't hate myself in my life. So that came with me like, okay, I learned this. Okay, well then let me pick this up too. Just trying a bunch of different things. And honestly, I get bored kind of quickly, and learning new things and researching new things keeps me satisfied, and also just keeps me less bored. I know there's like a such thing as shiny object syndrome, but the thing is, when you pick a field, there's so many like subfields within that. Like even with like AI, there's so many different components or types of AI that you can learn, even machine learning alone. Same thing with data. Like I was starting as a data analyst and data engineering. So many things within those realms.
Mm.
So yeah, even it helps to have shiny toy syndrome sometimes, but as long as you just keep it, don't let it rear its ugly head. You just stick to like, the certain area you're in, that's fine. Also, it's just really cool to have the idea of becoming good enough to where you can help shape the future of technology, or even
Mm.
how people engage with and learn technology as well too. I really fell more in love with it once I started sharing more about what I knew. And people were like, oh, wait, like, this stuff, tell me more. And I was like, oh, wait, this is cool that I'm enjoying telling people stuff. And it helps me to stay sharp because I have to be the one to go and regurgitate all this knowledge. And I think the reason why people gravitate to me for learning is because I try to explain things in layman's terms. Quite honestly, I think I am an intelligent person, but I wouldn't say that I am like a smart person in the sense of I can pick something up and immediately understand it like other people can. I have to break things down in like jargon to understand what these words mean. Like for
Mm.
instance, I worked on a cloud, like a very popular cloud platform, and I had no idea what serverless meant up until like a year and a half ago. And once I
Mm.
figured out what it meant, I was like, this is ridiculous. By the way, guys, serverless is there's still a server that exists. What it means is that you have some type of service, but you're not managing like the underlying infrastructure or worrying about like
Yeah.
compute cost. That's
And the
like,
cloud is not a real cloud.
it's not. And I thought it was. When I went to college, I thought it was a real cloud. And I was like, I'm not sure how this works, but okay, like I guess things just magically happen. But once I went to college, also just really took the time to study and understand how things go, and also working at a cloud company, I realized the cloud is just rented data centers instead of you
Mm.
actually running stuff on your own laptop. So, yeah, that's really how it is. Just curiosity and having the opportunity to explain and break down things to people, and then they like the way I explain those things.
Yeah. You know what? One of the things that I found most refreshing in my tech career journey, and it's interesting because I started my career as an entrepreneur, right? So literally had to figure out everything. And I was part of an accelerator slash incubator where we had experts in the room with us who were guiding us on how to do different things, legal, design, go to market technology, bringing like AWS services to us and figuring out how to set it up, etc. I got immersed in this space where, in fact, it wasn't only okay not knowing, it
Mhm.
was almost encouraged because you were then that one question away from learning the answer. And I juxtaposed that with being a lawyer. Nobody wants a lawyer who doesn't understand case law. Nobody wants a doctor who's Googling like at their visit, right? That is the beauty of technology. And I think that you saying that, especially in your story about how you got that job, and your curiosity and all of that coming together, because so many people may not understand what that really means. It's like, what do you mean you not fully having all the answers, but having questions is how you got the job? So
Mhm.
I did want to contextualize it a little bit because I think it's really key. And how can you help someone who's new and maybe has some imposter syndrome of, am I good enough? Can I really do this? To really figure out that, or at least some steps to dealing with that and going to get that opportunity.
Yes, sure. So, people, the first question was about like starting out, or was it about the curiosity part? Sorry, I don't know why I'm.
A little bit of both.
Okay, yeah, no problem with that then. Yes, so the idea of you have to know everything all at once, and if you don't, then you're a failure and you don't know anything and you should just quit. Um, so a lot of people forget that with tech, you're literally learning a new skill. It's just like how you had to learn to tie your shoelaces, just like how you had to learn how to count from 1 to 10, learn whatever foreign language with us, if it is in high school, learning how to ride a bike. It's all new. So when you're starting to learn something, you become better when there's repetition there. So tech is really just getting your reps in and understanding that you're going to have to consistently do that. Just like you do with any other skill that you picked up in life. Even when dropping and operating a car, you had to learn to do that many times. So it's okay to not know something. Also, the more you do know, the more you understand how much you don't know. And at
Mm.
first, that can be scary. And after a while, you're like, actually, this is kind of lit because, like, there's so many more things that I can know and understand. And that's really cool because it's, to me, you should never stop trying to learn. You should always be growing. Like, as a person, you're always growing. There's always something to look forward to.
Mm.
With that mindset, how could you possibly know everything? So I think it's just a mindset flip. And then also when it comes to jobs, because I think that's the biggest issue that we're seeing with curiosity and having questions and not knowing everything. If you read a job description and you feel like you can do every single thing on there, that job is not, it's not gonna, it's really not gonna keep your attention. It's already like, I
Mm.
guess the way to say it is like beneath you, because you should always learn on every single job you're at, even if
Mm.
you're expert in something, because there's always business processes or the way a person uses a system or software that's gonna be different than all the other places before. And while you might have your dream job, you should still treat every opportunity like a stepping stone to learn to get to the next step. You don't want something to be like a finality because then it's like, to me, that's like almost like career death. You
Mm.
also don't want to be the type of person where you're in a job and you're working there for 10 years, but you don't really learn much. So you have 10 years of 1 year of experience. And then
Yep.
this is where a lot of people do the fear mongering because they see the young people learning and hungry to learn more and do better. And then they start to be like, oh, this is really hard and da da da. And it's because they have 10 years and 1 year of experience. And
Mm.
when you leave that job and go interview somewhere else, you understand quickly how much you do not know.
Yep.
So that's why it's very important to be okay with asking questions and understanding that you're always going to be learning something new. And you should look forward to that because that's extra. That means there's more things to put on your resume. There's more things to decorate you and who you are, and strengthen your expertise. As far as we talked about, oh, imposter syndrome. I used to have really, really bad imposter syndrome for a while, like up until maybe like a couple years ago, maybe even last year. But the issue with that was just me second guessing myself because I thought that me knowing stuff could make other people feel bad, or even like it
Mm.
was a crime to like actually know stuff, or even just be curious. And then
Mm.
also sometimes it's just because you need to get in the field. Sometimes your
Mm.
imposter syndrome comes from you knowing that you're not doing the things that you should be doing. So
Mm.
that means that go do more. So how you know you're good at something and ready to start is when you can kind of you have a systems thinking or a process of how to understand how to break down a problem like and how to solve it. You might not
Mm.
know exactly what to do, what to code, what to type, what button to click, but you know enough to where you're like, okay, this is the brief, like a basic outline of what I need to do. I can Google the specific details to figure out what's going on. Also,
Mm.
understand that everybody is also learning at the same time you are. They might not
Mm.
be on the same exact journey as you, but they are learning, and that's okay.
Mm.
And then also, I think sometimes, so De'Ara Footman wrote a really good Substack article about imposter syndrome and how survival mode can really keep you from like moving to the next step. I can't remember all the specifics. She's amazing, but basically, just having to, you know, just struggle and keep yourself afloat can keep you from moving to the next step or having a certain belief in yourself. It's like planning
Mm.
consciously. So a lot of times it's taking a step back to really just be present in yourself, asking yourself
Mm.
what it is that you need. It sounds weird, it sounds woo-woo, but it's really the truth. And listening to that, and then also just self-soothing, like, hey, it's okay that you don't understand something or it's taking longer than you expect. Just keep going because a week from now you might get back to the same issue or page or whatever it is that you're reading or you're studying, and you're like, oh wait, I do remember this. And then a month
Mm.
from now you're like, oh, look at how much I've learned since then. And then months pass and you're like, I've learned so much more than I thought I ever could. And look at what
Mm.
I did if I just kept going. Once you
Yeah.
get over that hurdle and understand that process of learning, it becomes easier for you to understand that you're picking up new stuff. And then also, it helps to build your confidence.
Mm.
Doing things helps to build your confidence and it lowers the amount of imposter syndrome you have. And you'll notice that when you're explaining stuff to people in conversation. Anyways, that was long-winded, but yeah.
No, I love it. I love every piece of it. And I wanted to give you this shout out so we don't lose it. So Kurt said, "Wow, thank you for this amazing response." That was for your earlier response about learning how to code. So thank you, Kurt. And then we do have another question. I think this is more predictive, saying, "What kind of AI tech could be embedded in ceiling fans, refrigerators, and things like that?"
That is so specific. I immediately think of IoT though, Internet of Things,
Yeah.
connecting sensors and all that type of stuff to understand what's going on. I mean, AI, I mean, and that's really already here. So like even for refrigerators, there's like they have sensors in there that can kind of predict like maintenance on that type of stuff. Like even if you think about restaurants or like large scale industrial fridges, they have it to where they might predict when you might need to do maintenance, when like the power is about to go out and stuff like that, because the sensors, they feed that data in and they have AI models to help with that. Same thing with ceiling fans, wind speed, and maybe even understanding if you have like a smart fan and you have a certain setting of how much you like it to like blow or go around, they might figure out like at a certain time you like it on a maximum speed, and it'll handle that stuff for you. So yeah, the field for that is IoT. And just look up like IoT use cases for like homes, and a bunch of stuff
Yeah.
will come up.
And I think it brings the question that almost is like the underlying question. Is AI in everything? Is AI going to be in everything? And is AI in everything good?
Unfortunately, I feel like it will be, just because, or I don't think it will be for everything. I think right now people are trying to put it into everything because it's a shiny new toy. People are like, oh, this is really cool. People are creating solutions for problems that don't even exist. And we're seeing this especially with a lot of startups. I yesterday I was like, what the heck? Because I saw a person create a AI co-founder. So instead of you having to go and like go find, or you have a startup, you have a co-founder, you just go get an AI one, so you don't have to pay equity, and you also don't have to deal with somebody like drama and ego. That was their phrase for it. So stuff like that is like, why would you even? But in reality, it was like a glorified bookkeeping tool. I'm pretty sure I've seen like an AI toaster. I don't know what you would need AI to. It's like it has like 5 settings of how deeply you want your toast toasted. I don't know what you need AI for that for. Um, just I don't know. I just think people are really excited about what can happen, and so they're just doing anything. I mean, the innovation is great, but it's just not good when you think about like the bubble that we're in, and just a bunch of things that people don't really need. There's not, I feel like there should be more focus on being innovative around the things that really do matter, like healthcare and compliance, and like not to be all like socialism, but whatever it's called, but like world hunger and housing and so many things that actually matter and can help people and impact our lives in a good way. So yeah, it isn't everything. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Because I think one of the best explanations of AI, and this is what blew my mind. Someone had a talk one time, and it really you keep dropping so many gems, and I want to keep up, but it's like I'm struggling a little bit. One of the things that you said that I thought was so powerful is that there's a bit of us in everybody, right? So even you having your learning style and being able to break things down has now become this superpower for you that you're not helping other people. Why? Because you understand things a certain way and you're making it more accessible to a lot of people. I was actually remembering, almost like a joke that someone I really respected in the industry, shout out David Fowler. He was saying that when he got his job at Microsoft, and someone asked him about his confidence level in C#, he said 7. He says more than 10 years later, his confidence level is now 4. And I think you made a joke about that, about the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, right?
It's humbling.
It is. And he's a distinguished engineer, by the way. But going back to the thing that I was saying is, you having that skill to break it down is such an important skill, because technology is hard, especially if you consider that people are coming from different backgrounds, different understanding, is way different from someone whose parent works at Google, who's probably picked up these terms all their life. They've heard it in the background, that a lot of things just make sense, versus like someone who doesn't have that same experience. And it's like even the most basic of things can throw you for a loop. And it's interesting that you were saying something about just understanding serverless 1.5 years ago. And like I used to be ashamed to say this, but not so much anymore, is that I've been building startups for, well over 10 years now. And it was only like 2-3 years ago that I really connected that everything was data.
Yes.
Like I knew it to be, like I've heard things like data is the new oil, data is the new gold. I thought about it as something distinct from everything else.
Mhm.
Like, but it was later that I really thought about it. I'm like, wait. And this is me, like, it's interesting. Like when I would do my first startup, then, I would go into the text box that says metadata, right? And put in like socks and all those things just to describe the product. But I never connected the dots. So in my mind, it's like, yes, there's data on the back end. So this pictures of this products that I'm uploading is there. And then anytime somebody lands on this web page, it's bringing that data forward. And then when they type in and say, I want this product, it's recording that data. And then they put in their name, their fields and everything. And then it processes that data. So everything, the entire loop is a data operation.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But that is the beauty of it, is like you can be ashamed to feel that emotion, to connect the dot, because the beauty of it is that you've come full circle. You've now unlocked it. And I almost want to argue that understanding things at that level where it hits you, literally hits you, is the most important thing you can do, because it's like you kind of like came up in the moment.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like those moments make it really worth it. Like the revelation that hits. And then also it's like it's a dopamine hit. Like, oh my gosh, I feel like the smartest person in the world. Wow, like who would have thought? Like imagine there are people out in the world that don't even know this right now. That's crazy.
Yep.
And then you're like, there's people that do know this. Wow. Like it's just a really cool experience.
It is. It is. And Kurt has another question. It says, if I'm in B2B FinTech sales, how do I pivot technical using AI? What kind of role?
Okay, he's basically asking about technical roles for fintech, yeah, or in finance, yeah, fintech. So you have it. There's a tons of roles that you can do, even if you don't want to be technical. So I mean, of course, there's AI engineers in the fintech world building out like finance stuff or like fraud specialization, chat bots for even understanding like the finance terms and all the stuff that goes on there. I'm not a finance nerd, so I don't know all the subdomains, but every single subdomain or every domain that makes money or use case that makes money in fintech, go look at those and then type up like AI use cases for finance, and then finance AI roles in finance, even data roles for finance, and you'll see that. They're also like if you're not trying to be super technical, there's also like the business analyst roles. There's also like the data or AI PM roles where you're not having to actually be technical, but you are being the person that manages those projects for finance AI initiatives. So there's tons of stuff you can do. Every single field has AI use cases. Every single field has data use cases. It's just a matter of you going through and looking at, what use cases exist. Also, the popular AI tools that are being used in those companies or in finance right now, and even just in general, the popular tool like finance tools in general, go look at the case studies for those and you'll see exactly how companies are applying AI and you achieving success. So not only will that help you to get a better understanding of what's going on, shout out research, but you'll also be able to talk about this in interviews and even think about projects that you can do for yourself to strengthen your resume, to strengthen your skills, and then also just to help you to get an understanding of how far you need to go when it comes to upskilling.
Mm. And I think that, like, yeah, that's the most amazing thing also that I think about just tech in general, is that your story matters, right? Like, and how it comes together also matters, right? In kind of like even how you're describing it, because if you're starting out in a new field, in a new career, and you don't even have everything figured out, the journey of how you got there can be even the biggest thing that you sell to someone, because it's like, oh, you know what? I was stuck in this place. I was trying to figure XYZ out. This is the route that I took, and this were the things that I did. Because what you don't realize, I think it goes back to what you said, curiosity is, and even who you are at the core, because you might touch on something that that person resonates with deeply. And I see like we've had many of those moments even on this conversation where it's like, oh yeah, I can relate to that. And that's the thing. It's like many jobs can even give you a job, if you don't have all the skills, because some skills are very industry specific, domain specific. It's like this, matchup of like multiple different things that takes to do this specifically. But the question is like, are you willing to apply yourself? Like, can you do the work? And if the only way you can prove, you can say, I'll do the work. Everybody will say that. The only evidence they have is in your stories. Like, does it come out? Like, can we see it?
I agree. Do you have conviction? Do you believe in yourself? Are you who you say you are? Like, do you stand on business? I love this topic because I talk about this a lot on like with social media as well too. I think that mindset is very important when it comes to this stuff, not just the skills. In fact, mindset is the most important, and being honest with yourself about what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do to get to where you want to go. And if you realize that you're not willing to do certain things that are in relation to what you want, then you need to refine and reel it back in and figure it out what actually is realistic for you, which could be very high where there's no ceiling, or it's like, average, which is fine. It's just that you have to be honest about what you want to do. And that's where you'll see the most results, because you're not BSing yourself. You're not BSing other people. It allows for things to come in that make sense for you. And it's also much easier. You don't keep yourself up at night like, I said I was going to do this, but I didn't do it. So there's that. And then also, when it comes to character, and, people see these exceptional things like, everybody freaking out about people being offered like billions of dollars and like millions of dollars, for the super intelligence team for Meta and all that, and what that looks like. And it's like, well, those people, they have, yes, excellent pedigree, but look at all the things that they had to do. And you see them, and it's taken them years of building things, and obviously late nights if they're building out, things that are related to transformers and like cutting edge models and stuff. That's not something they wake up and are like, yes, I figured this out in my brain while I'm sleeping. That takes a deep, deep research and willingness to sit there and try and figure things out. That's extremely difficult. And that's not to say other people can't do that, but when those people command those types of salaries, you have to understand why they're doing that. And if you want to do that, you need to follow their path or figure out what the principles were that they did and apply it to the path that you want to go down. Those are exceptional people. Those are like the top 1% of the 1% for AI people. And they're exceptional. And here's the thing. A lot of people feel like they want to be exceptional too, but they're not doing exceptional work. And everybody feels like they're an anomaly, and that's not the case. You really do have to, like Kim says, nobody wants to work. Get up and work. Like, it's very true. You do have to get up and work and put in what you want. And there's controversy around this, but I've really made the stance of like, I want to be undeniably good. There's no way you're going to walk into the room and not know off the strength of my aura, and also maybe just even who I am, that I'm good at what I do. There's no denying it. And that I understand that it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of grit. It takes a lot of whatever. I get it, because I'm not perfect. I don't want to portray myself as perfect, but I am resilient, and I'm a hard worker, and I'm also dedicated to doing the things I said I was going to do, as long as they align with me. Everybody should have that type of framework and mindset for what they want going on, even if it's not something undeniably exceptional. Maybe it's just them, making sure that
just good enough.
Yeah, keeping a roof over their head, keeping their family fed, whatever it is. Just make sure that you have your own type of framework and your principles that align to that, and stick to that plan.
Something that you also said that I almost wanted to add was also exceptional sacrifice, right? And the market rewards that. Like, if you think about even the journey of a doctor, right? Like the amount of years, then go to like, I don't know if they call it house or fellowship or all of those things, only to come out like the average person who went to college probably like 5-6 years out by the time they finally make it. And the market recognizes that, right? At any time in the US, there's always a doctor shortage. So when they make that amount of money they make, it's literally because like you know, it's the opposite of a dime a dozen, right? Like
Right.
it's not a lot, not a lot of them, right? And that's just how the market works.
Exactly. 100% agree with that. So yeah, it goes with all the discipline, all the different fields where, you understand that not everybody's going to do this. Okay, if you don't want to do that at that level, but like I said, understand, what comes with and what doesn't come with what you want to do. Because as you said, on what'd you say, exceptional sacrifices or
Sacrifice, yep.
yep,
Exceptional
sacrifice.
sacrifice, yep.
I can easily understand why people wouldn't want to go the route that I'm going. It takes a ton of work. I talk about it. I share my L's and all that. It's a lot of work. I can easily see why someone would be like, nah, I'm cool. I want to stay home and play my game or something. Because I'll be wanting to stay home and play my game and do whatever too, because it's a lot. So yeah, it's just a lot that comes with it. And I think people have to be honest about that. And I also just feel like people don't get exposure, or they don't understand that the exposure that they're seeing is
Mhm.
a lot of hard work. They see it as, oh, this person's doing it, so it's easy. And it's like, no, even that thing that you're seeing someone do, accepting an award or something, they still had to sacrifice to go even accept that award or
Yeah,
whatever
right.
they have going on. Like, it's not as easy as just
Even receiving the award is not easy.
right. Like, like they have many other things they probably wanted to do, but of course that comes with the brand, that comes with who they are and what they said they're gonna do. So yeah.
It's interesting that we're actually on this topic because one of the things that I swore to myself almost was that I was never ever going to charge for anything that I do in tech because, and this was a personal mission. So I used to work at a nonprofit, and I saw how giving a lot of free away helped make it possible for many people who wouldn't have ordinarily had the access to get that access. So
Mhm.
that was a key motivating factor. Second factor was, I've trended a couple times on Twitter, and I find, some randos come into my comments and just say fraud or like, scammer. And I'm like, I don't have anything for sale. Like, if I'm a scammer, then I'm the dumbest scammer that existed because it's like, I have to make money somehow. Like, how can I be scamming for free? So those things kind of like shit my resolve around like never wanted to charge. But I already have like even my top mate set up. And I realized one thing. I'm like, there are people who want to make that sacrifice. And I don't want to rob them of that value because, and it came to me even because of my own journey. So I'm currently in my MBA program right now. I'm traveling every 3 weeks.
Mhm.
It's costing me like thousands and thousands of dollars. Not even the program, just like the logistics of getting there,
Yeah.
right? And I place a lot of value. In fact, there was one time where they were asking, I'd missed a flight and couldn't make it. And like, if it's too much, do I want to go online? And I'm like, no, I want to do it. I want to do it the hard way.
Yes.
So I recognize that. And I'm like, why then do I want to take it away from people? Because one of the things I realized, my MBA is more likely to mean more to me than some other folks
Mhm.
because it costs me more than other folks, right? And that's the thing. It's like, so then I said it. I said, okay, it's not going to be a lot of money, like $10 for 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Because the point is, nobody's, most people are not too broke for that. Let me not say nobody, but most people are not too broke for $10 because a lot of times it's not really the value to me, it's the value to them. And I think like it's a framework that more people need to think about is that naturally we just value things more when we pay for it, right? When we
Mhm.
put value behind it. And this isn't even money, right? How much time, in fact, money is the cheapest thing. There's
Right.
credit cards everywhere, there's Klarna everywhere. The challenge is how many people can put 10 hours in on a weekend?
Mhm.
That's the more expensive part. And it's like, how much value then do you ascribe to it? Because, like I told you, we're having that conversation literally before this got started. How do you get to 81 episodes, right? It's
Mhm.
literally because I've almost tied too many fail safes there where it can't fail. Because at the very minimum, if I don't even take myself seriously, I take Kierra seriously enough that I'm going to show up. And
Right.
that's how I've been able to keep going for so long. So it's like, how do you build that resilience or even trick yourself to build that resilience to do the things you need to do to succeed?
That makes a lot of sense. Also, I think it's just a level of tiredness. Like, how tired are you going to be of not doing the things you're saying you're going to do? It's
Mm.
like there's that underlying guilt you feel when you know you're supposed to be doing something and you haven't and you're procrastinating. I hate that feeling. I hate
Same.
it so much because it just gnaws at you. And the thing is, you know, you could just stop and go fix it, but you choose not to, which makes it even worse.
Yep.
So, yeah, it really just boils down to that, to me, tiredness. And then also, people, you really know who you are when like you're doing things when nobody's watching. Because it's one thing to have
Mm,
people be like, yeah, you know, I show up as this person, I say I'm this, that, and the other, and then I go home and do completely opposite of what everybody just saw. But I
mm,
have to sit with that, and then eventually, again, like I say, it leaks out. You eventually see it. People will put the pieces together, especially if they're seeing you over time, right? Because it's like,
mm,
well, you haven't progressed, or X, Y, and Z is not happening. But also, I don't know why I keep going back to this. Like, it's really mental. Like, you do have to think
mm,
about that feeling you get when you're not doing the things, or you're not aligned with what you say you want, or all that.
mm,
You're living a lie.
mm,
And I know that sounds so dramatic, but that's how I felt about it. Even though it was like minuscule things, that's just how it felt. It felt like I was dishonoring myself. It felt
mm,
like I was disrespecting myself.
mm,
So yeah, that, and then also just understanding that discipline, like, it's very different from motivation. You know, and that
mm,
you're just doing things just because you said you were going to do them and you're supposed to do them. Very similar to people that like work out in the gym. I mean, I work
mm,
out, but you know, people that work out consistently, especially the ones we see the influence on Instagram and stuff.
mm,
Sure, they get paid for it, but they can go do a job just like everybody else. There are days where they don't want to do that. They're tired of spend going in the gym, but that's what they've dedicated themselves to do. So they just do it and think about the video games they could be doing while they're lifting and doing their reps.
mm,
You know, same thing here. And that's also why I get weary about making certain types of content, because it's dopamine
mm,
hits. It makes you feel like you're doing
mm,
something because you're like, yeah, this is so inspiring. This is great. The video's over. 5 minutes later, you're back to scrolling again. You didn't get up and go do what you thought you were going to do when you saw the video. And I think that's
mm,
also why I've never really liked watching motivational videos, because I always used to be like, what are people getting out of this? This actually didn't give me any information to do what I need to do. And I think it's just because I was just thinking too deep. But that's the point. Like, you feel like they're trying to say something or tell you something. No shade to them, but in the end, it just doesn't give you anything. There's no actionable steps, and then also you're not getting up to go do anything. And we just live in an age where there's like cheap dopamine hits, and they do
mm,
nothing for you but delay you. So to me, the
mm,
best dopamine hits that I've experienced so far is just from just doing the stuff that I really don't want to do, but I know what's good for me. I walk a
mm,
lot now. I'm like a walk brand ambassador. I love it, not just because of like weight loss or whatever, but the mental clarity from it. There are
mm,
days now, I just get up and go. Like, as soon as, I don't even allow myself the time to think, oh, I don't want to walk today. Nope. Go get your 10,000 steps in, figure out what podcast, whatever, you know, new music you want to listen to, and just get up and do it. Same thing with
mm,
studying, because I still have to upskill a lot in machine learning, because I am the type of person that likes to understand deeply what it is I'm doing. So I'm having to
mm,
learn about, you know, all the machine learning models and the underlying math and concepts about it. And that stuff is hard. But
mm,
I said I wanted to do that. I do want to do it. So I stumble through it, because right now, honestly, I'm stumbling because it's difficult. You know, it's math. I wasn't the smartest person in math class, especially when it came to calculus and statistics and all that. But
mm,
I do feel better over time as I'm sticking to the course. A month later, I'm like, wow, I know a lot. And yeah, it's just really just doing the things that you know that you're supposed to do. I feel like I'm a broken record, but people really need to hear that, because I've spent a lot of my life being like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then I don't do it. But I feel bad because
mm,
I know that that's what I wanted. It clicked for me when I was like, yes, it's normal to not want to do something and you do it anyways. It's very normal to feel uncomfortable doing something that you should be doing. And everybody else might not talk about it, but that doesn't mean that they also aren't experiencing those things, especially successful people. A lot of their success comes from them doing a lot of uncomfortable things many, 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 many times. And a lot of
mm,
actually feeling very uncomfortable and not even being fruitful in the sense that people will expect. It's fruitful in the sense that it's learning lessons, but it's not fruitful in the sense of, oh, I woke up and now I'm a millionaire or something like that.
mm,
Or, you know,
mm,
I failed at something and I had to pivot. You know, that's
mm,
not fruitful. And, you know, there's nothing
mm,
sexy about those things, but the boring, not sexy things is what makes you sexy over time.
mm. That wow. Like A lot of that was major keys. A lot of that, like you went hard there. I mean, of course, I think Mali actually got some one of the gems. I really love that. Motivation is fleeting. It's all about discipline. Absolutely. And also, I fell in love with walking. Knocked out 15K today. Wow! Shout out to you.
I
Shout
know
out to
that's right,
you.
Mally. You go.
There's two people who actually made me love walking. So, well, I don't walk as much. I'm gonna put that out there, but I do play soccer a lot. One was Steve Jobs. It's like if you read his book, it's one of the things that he does. Every major thing he did, he goes walking. And that was another person who I work with at Apple who also loved walking. Right? It's like it gives you clarity. It gets your blood pumping. Even sometimes, like when I'm in technical meetings and I find it hard to concentrate, I go off camera and start pacing, and I just start understanding a bit more. I don't know the math or science behind that, but it works for me.
I like, yeah, I feel like there's some type of emotional regulation work that goes on to where you're able to focus and think. Like I swear there's some type of emotional regulation to where you can like zone in on what you're listening to. I don't know the science behind it either, but I get exactly what you're saying.
I've also noticed in general that sometimes the best way for me to understand is to multitask. So do something else, but do the thing that's like a mindless thing. That now, so like for example, I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm driving because I almost don't like, of course, beyond concentrating on the road, like I don't have to do anything else. So then the information, but if I was just listening, my mind will wander and I'll do all these things. So I'm concentrating on the road enough to not be distracted by other things. And now I'm cheating myself, cheating the system by listening in. So I know we're at time, but it flew by pretty fast. But I didn't know if you had any, movies coming out, songs, concert you want people to come see, but just anything that you want to shout out or announce for people to check out.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to, I think it's called The Long Walk. Um, it looks like a thriller, but it looks like people are supposed to like walk for 100 miles straight. It's like some type of game, and if they win, it's like they win a gargantuan amount of money. But if they stop walking, then there's severe consequences apparently based off of the trailer. So that looked really interesting. I just saw, what's the movie? Mirrors? Is it Window? What is that? Weapons. I just saw Weapons. That one was interesting. It was not what I expected. I feel like everybody should see it anyways, just once. Um, just to say they can. I don't know why I'm like, no, I like thriller movies right now. Oh, The Weeknd is actually coming to San Antonio because I'm in Austin. I'm really looking forward to his concert. I've never seen him in concert before, but I really liked his new album that dropped. I haven't really listened too much to stuff before. I haven't listened too much of his like past couple of albums, so I'm looking forward to that. Also, I mean, that's it for like actual other stuff. But if it comes to me in announcements, I've been on a speaking spree. I just came back from talking at Black is Tech Week, but I will be having 3 more conferences to speak at. September, in a couple weeks, I'll be at Black Women in Data Conference. If you like data and you're a Black woman, definitely go check out those tickets in Atlanta. I'm doing a workshop over data architecture. There's also Commit Your Code conference. I'll be speaking about agent ops, basically DevOps for AI agents. Go check that out. I think tickets are like $49. Danny's the organizer. He's amazing. I'm pretty sure everybody's heard of him because he has 1,000,002 followers. And then also I am attending MLCon, which is going to be in New York in the first week of October. I'll be speaking about reasoning models. I'm actually doing a keynote there. So yeah, I'm going to be in a lot of places.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very impressive lineup, and wish you all the best with that. So if you do want to see her, go check her out on all those places. Where can the people follow you?
Oh, yes, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I feel like I'm forgetting another one, but I am Kierra D. Literally, I am Kierra D is my handle. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn as well. There, all of them, I post a lot of technical content about data and AI. I also talk about careers in general and mindset and things of that nature. Also, if you're looking for a career consultation, basically what that means is I'll listen more to what you're doing, what you want to do, and we'll come up with a quick roadmap on what you should follow and exactly what you should do to get to the next step in your career, whether it's data and AI, and that's at thedatablock.com.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much, Kierra. This has been such an amazing, amazing one. I've definitely been looking forward to it, and it did not disappoint. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, that's been the show for today, guys. Every Thursday evening, we're here 6 to 7. Yeah, I definitely don't want you to miss out on any of your shout outs. There's another one shout out to Kierra. She's been dropping all her resources on Twitter,
oh.
X as well. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see you guys again next week with another amazing episode of Working in Tech.